This is a very special day because I'm going to drive the iconic hot hatch. This is the 1984 Volkswagen GTI, and this particular example has 78,000 miles. It's actually for sale on Hemmings right now, and I'm lucky enough to get a taste of it before it goes away. Growing up, my dad always had Volkswagen, so we always had a key like this sitting in the drawer, but unfortunately he never had a GTI. He had Rabbits and Scirocco's. This is what makes hot hatches, and it is quintessentially 80s. This one's in incredible condition. We've even got these great little fender flares inside. Probably the most lovely interior I've ever seen on these 80s cars other than a Porsche. This has a blue dashboard, it's got blue doors, the seats are this incredible sort of blue and orangey brown. I mean, only in the 80s would you get something like this. And the best thing about these cars was how practical they still were. You could sit in the back, you could put people in them. Now, safety-wise, not so certain I would want to be in an accident because, yeah, you do have all this space, but it's because there's really nothing between you and the outside world. There's like a thin piece of sheet metal and maybe a hair of insulation. There's no sunroof in this car, but that's fine. It means it's more rigid and it's not going to leak. And everything in it is quirky. I mean, even these seat belts are kind of funky. The plugs, they're fixed and the button is not in the position you'd normally find it. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Around back, we have tons of space in the hatch, and of course all kinds of goodies to prove that this is a very authentic and exciting car. So if you are interested, there'll be a link below if you want to see every detail about it. But you know, this was really revered as a fun driver's car, and not a whole lot of them survived because they weren't that expensive. I think they cost just over $7,000 when new in 1984. They weigh 2,000 pounds. You can't really find anything that weighs under 3,000 pounds anymore unless you go hyper expensive or just crazy dangerous. So people, normal people with just a little bit of money, were able to go and experience the joys of driving when they bought a Rabbit GTI. And that's exactly what we're gonna go do today and exploit this 1.8 liter, 90 horsepower four-cylinder. But before we do that, I gotta show you under the hood because it's very strange and you Volkswagen nerds are really going to like it. When we open the hood, the first thing you notice is this giant AC condenser, and it reminds me of air-cooled Porsche air conditioning units, which pretty much everyone took away. The owner tells me that this one still blows ice cold, you know what? I have no reason not to believe him. We'll try it out in the car, and I genuinely, I'm not totally sure what this little guy is. I did my homework after the fact, and this is a vacuum reservoir installed on air conditioner cars in order to maintain vacuum to continue blowing air through the vents when you're under acceleration. And yeah, enough about that. Let's take it for a drive. Unfortunately, my dad sold his Volkswagens before I was old enough to remember them. So there are pictures of me in little brown Rabbits, but I never got to really experience them. So this is a totally foreign concept to me. I've always loved Golfs. My first car was a Mark III Golf, although that's kind of a porker and certainly not revered as a driver's car. It's like driving a brand new GTI from 1984. This is why I'm so excited when folks let me drive their pristine stuff. Oh, I love these gauges, very simple. The directional is just this little green light. It does the same blink regardless of which way you're turning. And yeah, let's go do the thing. Let's go drive a car. Roll up windows. I love the way these old cars kind of smell like an airplane. Just a hint. It's like getting in a Cessna. This Blaupunk stereo, absolutely wild. Really nice, sturdy metal e-brake, and of course our golf ball shifter. Let's just go for a little rip. When you drive these little cars, they just inspire so much happiness and excitement. And actually, oh wow, the AC is on. That is blowing cold. I am impressed. Oh my goodness, I'm glad we are not stuck behind the 10-mile-per-hour Camry. The car's only 2,011 pounds. You feel everything communicated through this little manual steering rack, and you've got to put quite a bit of lock into it, which is a blast. But you've got to remember, that if you want to take a hairpin, you're going to be shuffling that wheel. The suspension is like stiffer than I expected it to be, but it works. It's doing a good job holding the car where I want it. There's enough torque, even though it only has 100 pound-feet of torque, to drag me up the hill. All the power, all the juice is in that mid-range. There's no need to really be at redline in a GTI. And that's pretty characteristic of Volkswagens, even throughout the 90s and early 2000s. They're always about that mid-range torque that drags you out of the corner, not about redline to redline. And I swear, every time you see the sign, slow curve ahead, you're gonna put your foot down. It doesn't have a crazy amount of grip, but it doesn't have to. That's the point, is that you're trying to have fun on a small contact patch. Despite the rear drums, I still feel good on the brakes. I mean, they're not incredible, but the speed you're going, it can certainly bring down 2,000 pounds quick enough. Controls are kind of funny because of the seating position. You got to reach a little bit for this shifter. There's a lot of body movement involved when you drive these cars because you've got to hustle this big wheel that, yeah, you've got to put quite a bit of input to get the car to go where you want it to go. A hairpin turn is not just like a supercar today. You're going to go around a lock or two. And unlike the K cars that I've been driving, this is like actually roadworthy for the highway. You could go and drive this at 70, 80 miles an hour if you had to for some short distance. I'm sure you can hear inside, but like the car is visceral, the car is raw. It's not hiding the elements from you. It's going to show you every ounce of the road's broken surfaces. Squirrel, come on, go the right way. Good boy. And while it's easy to drive, because this is such a nice little like new feeling tactile clutch, it's somewhat unforgiving. If you're not right in the right spot, you know, you're gonna have like a little bit of dancing on the tack. I'm following my friend T-NYC in his Acura Legend. It's a manual 5-speed. We're gonna drive that soon too. I can't believe how well this thing handles. What a little animal. These New England roads are perfect for this car. If you put in the lock, it's gonna give you what you asked for. But of course, you've got to remember, there's no ABS. There's nothing that's gonna save you if things go wrong. But no matter what, when you're driving a car that only weighs 2,000 pounds, you're gonna have a good time. That's a fun little horn. I think everybody appreciates seeing this car. That guy, I think he was just struggling on his run. But, you know, if you love air-cooled Porsches, you probably also love the GTI, the Mk1 GTI. It has history, it has purpose. And at the end of the day, it's a driver's car. And if you're wondering, is it still a hot hatch? Is it still exciting? Yes, 100% yes. No question in my mind. This is an exciting driver's car, even in 2020, especially in 2020. Everything's gotten so neutered. This thing is raw. And I'll tell you what, front wheel drive cars are exceptionally fun to drive. And if you think that front wheel drive isn't for drivers, well, you haven't driven enough cars, or you haven't driven front wheel drive cars hard enough. I have nightmares from my teenage days of going way too sideways in a front-wheel drive car, and I will never not respect a great driver behind the wheel of a front-wheel drive platform. So back to my old slow car fast philosophy. That's the best thing about these hot hatches, is that you actually can drive them to their fullest potential on like a normal road within reason. Maybe you'll go a little over the speed limit, but I think you can't do this in most modern cars. You can't just exploit a few gears in a modern car. So thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. If you want this very car, go check it out on Hemmings. It's for sale, and I wish I could have it myself. I'll see you in the next one.